Hello students, this is Prasad BG, Assistant Professor, AJ Institute of Engineering and Technology, Mangalore. So today's class we will continue with the module 5 from where we had stopped in the previous class. We had stopped at the taper turning by swelling the compound rest method. So there is another method of taper turning that is called taper turning by offsetting the tailstock, or it is also called the tailstock set over method. Okay, as I have explained in the previous class, the taper means the uniform reduction in diameter, that is producing a conical surface on the cylindrical workpiece, right? So we have two methods, out of which one method we have already discussed in the previous class. So usually we go for a tailstock offset method when we need very short taper angle but over a large length. Okay, we go for swelling of compound rest method when we need a larger taper angle but over a small length. So the length is very small but you need a larger taper. Then we can go for swelling the compound rest method. But we go for tailstock offset method generally when the length of the specimen is very big and you want the taper throughout the length, but we cannot go for a larger taper angle, a smaller taper will be there. For example, as I told you, if you have, let's say, only say 2 centimeters of length and the diameter has to reduce from 25 mm to 20 mm, then the length is very small, it's 2 centimeter, but the difference in diameter is 5 mm. The capital D is 25, small d is 20. So larger taper angle but smaller length. Then we have to choose the first method, that is taper turning by swelling the compound rest method. But if the length is more, let's say instead of 2 centimeter, if the length is say 10 centimeter, and then you need a taper from 25 mm, say taper from 25 mm capital D to 23 mm small d. So the small taper required throughout the length of the specimen. Then we go for tailstock offset method. Okay. So how do this work now? Tailstock offset method. As you can see in the sketch, the tailstock can be moved slightly towards either side. That is called as offsetting from its mean position. So in the sketch, if you see properly, there is an axis, right? Generally headstock and tailstock between which the workpiece will be connected will be in an axis and the tool will be perpendicular to that. Okay. So in this case, what we are trying to do is we are not changing the angle of the tool here. Rather, we are changing the angle of the workpiece itself. We are not keeping it parallel to that axis line. Rather, we are just trying to shift it slightly from the axis line. How we do that? By just moving the tailstock towards left. That's called as tailstock offset method. We are offsetting the tailstock and connecting the workpiece between the chuck and the dead center of the tailstock. So that what will happen? Instead of the object being straight or being parallel to the axis line, it will be slightly inclined to the axis line, and that angle is alpha here. Okay, and in the previous case also, as you have noticed, in that case we are swelling the compound rest, isn't it? The compound rest will have a provision to tilt by certain angle. Here we are not using the compound rest because the length of the compound rest is limited. We can only move by a shorter distance using compound rest. If you want to move a larger distance, then we have to use the carriage assembly. The whole carriage assembly has to be moved. The larger wheel has to be rotated so that the tool will move from left to right or right to left. Okay. So in that case, the large movement is required, so carriage assembly will be made, and we have no provision to tilt the carriage assembly. So carriage assembly will be straight, or in other words, what I am trying to say is the tool will be perpendicular to the axis only, as you can see in the sketch, but the workpiece is tilted here. Okay, that is the difference. In swelling the compound rest, the workpiece is parallel, the tool is tilted. In this case, in the tailstock offset method, the tool is perpendicular, the workpiece is tilted. Okay, and one more major difference, as I told you, is depending on the application. That is, when you need a larger taper angle over a smaller length, swelling the compound rest is used. When you need a smaller taper angle over a larger length, we use tailstock offset method. Okay, so what happens in this case is the tailstock will be offsetted by a small distance, as you can see in the sketch. and then the tool will be moved perpendicular to the axis, so that when it is tilted, some portion of the tool will come forward, right? So when the tool is in touch with that portion, more amount of material will be removed from there. But since the workpiece is at an angle, as the tool is moving towards left side, the other part of the workpiece will not come in contact. So every time this will happen is more and more amount of workpiece will be removed from one side, and it goes on reducing as you move the tool to the left side. So thereby more material is removed from one end, and it gradually decreases, and at the final point you see the diameter will be same, larger, and at the other end the diameter will be small. So uniform material would have been removed by then. Okay, so that is about tailstock offset method. So generally you would see they would ask any one of these methods in the examination. They can either ask for swelling the compound rush method or tailstock offset method. Both are important. Any one of them could be asked in the examination. So we will move on to the next part actually, that is specification of lathe. Okay, specification of lathe. So what do you mean by specification of lathe? So specification of lathe means we have to actually give the details about the machine. For example, what will be the maximum diameter of the workpiece that can be fitted into the lathe machine? What is the maximum length of the workpiece that can be fitted into that? That is the meaning of specification of the lathe. So for a given machine, what will be the minimum diameter? What could be the maximum diameter of workpiece that can be fitted into that? What will be the length of the workpiece, maximum length of the workpiece that can be fitted into that machine? So all these will tell you the specification of it. In addition to that, we can also say what will be the maximum speed at which it will rotate. Okay, so all these things will give you the specifications of lathe. So what are the things that is given here? The points are listed here. Height of the centers measured from the lathe bed. Okay, that is denoted by H in the sketch. So you can see here in the sketch they have denoted that point as H. So this distance. So from the lathe bed till here, what is the distance? That is called as height of the centers measured from the lathe bed. Second one, swing diameter. Swing diameter over the lathe bed. That means what is the largest diameter of the workpiece which can revolve without touching the bed. Of course, it is not possible because there will be tool and other things coming in between. But what is being told here is what is the diameter that can actually be fitted. The largest diameter of the workpiece which will revolve without touching the bed. So to revolve around the headstock, when it is fixed in the headstock, what is the maximum diameter between that point to the lathe bed is called as swing diameter. There is one more thing similar which is called as swing diameter over the carriage. So it means that what is the largest diameter that can revolve over the cross slide. Cross slide means you have the tool on which the tool post is placed. So what is the largest diameter that can actually revolve around the tool post? Okay, revolve over the cross slide. It will always be lesser than the swing diameter of the bed, as I told you. Right. The swing diameter of over the carriage will definitely be lesser than the swing diameter of the bed, as I've told you earlier. Next one, maximum bar diameter. What do you mean by maximum bar diameter? It is the maximum diameter that will pass through the headstock spindle, or in other words, the chuck. So we have told what is the maximum diameter of workpiece that can be turning without getting contacting to the bed. That is called swing diameter over the bed. Second thing, what is the maximum diameter of the workpiece that can be revolving over the cross line? That is one more. Third one is what is the maximum diameter of the workpiece that can actually be inserted into the chuck? What is the capacity of the chuck? That is one more specification. Last one is length of the bed. What is the overall length of the bed? That means from the headstock to the tailstock, what is the total length of the machine? That is called overall length of the bed. So these are the specifications of lathe machine. If somebody is asking, if the question is asked and give an explanation, specification of lathe, these are the points which you are going to tell. what is the overall length, what is the maximum diameter which can be fitted into the spindle, what is the maximum diameter that can be revolving around the bed, what is the maximum diameter which can be revolved around the cross line, and what is the height from the center to the lathe bed. Okay, so with that we complete specification of lathe, and also one part of this module 5. Only lathe machine is over. We have to continue with this. We have to then go on with the milling machine. So in that milling machine chapter, we have to study what is milling, what is the principle of milling, what are the different types of milling machines available, and also what are the different milling operations. Okay, so we will start with the milling machine. So what is milling actually? Milling is a manufacturing process in which the excess material from the workpiece is removed by a rotating multi-point cutting tool called the milling cutter. Okay, so you can see the difference between lathe machine and milling machine. In lathe machine, as I've told you, the clear difference here, lathe machine, the workpiece is rotating. Okay, workpiece is rotating, tool is stationary. Tool is not rotating. Tool is only made to move forward and towards longitudinal direction. Actually, it is moved by the carriage assembly. Tool will be stationary there, right? So you are feeding the tool against the rotating workpiece. That concept is lathe. But what about milling here? In milling, as I told you, you have a revolving cutter which is having teeths, which is the tool actually. So the wheel is rotating, or in other words, the tool is rotating here, and the workpiece is stationary. So you are feeding the workpiece against the rotating tool, quite opposite to that of lathe, isn't it? In lathe, workpiece is rotating, you are feeding the tool against the workpiece. Here, the tool is rotating, you are feeding the workpiece against the tool. Okay, so what is that tool? The tool is called as a milling cutter. The milling cutter is actually a multi-point cutting tool. So that is another difference. In lathe, what we are using is a single point cutting tool. In milling, what we are using is a multi-point cutting tool. That means there are many teeth in that cutter. So multi-point cutting tool it is. Okay, so workpiece is usually mounted on a movable work table, which will be fed against the revolving milling cutter to perform the cutting operation, as I've told you earlier. So the tool will be revolving or rotating continuously, and you are feeding the workpiece into the cutting cutter so that it will get cut. Okay, it's a very simple concept. I think you're all aware of these milling machines. So you have a blade or a circular disc which will be rotating, which is the wheel, and you are feeding the tool against this. You have seen these cutting operations also, right? Usually in construction sites and all. That I'm not giving that as an example of a milling machine, but you have seen that you have a disc which is rotating, and you are if you have to cut a metal or something, you just feed the metal against it, and you can see the sparks coming out, and the metal will be cut. So that is a concept, isn't it? The tool is rotating, whereas the workpiece will be fed against it. Okay, so this is important. This question also is generally asked. What do you mean by what is the principle of milling? How milling is done? So I have already explained this actually. So just in brief, I'll explain it one more time. The workpiece which is mounted on the table can be fed either in the direction opposite to that of the cutter or in the same direction of the cutter. There are two possibilities, isn't it? You have the work table, you have the milling cutter which is rotating. So there are two ways in which you can actually feed the workpiece into the tool. One, the tool is rotating in one direction and you are feeding the workpiece from opposite direction, as you can see in a left sketch, which is called as up milling. Okay, so you can see that here, right? Sorry. Okay, so you can see that here, right? So you have the feed direction given in the first sketch, and you can see the cutter rotating direction. They are opposite to each other, right? That means tool is rotating in clockwise direction and the feed is given in from other side, so opposite direction. That sort of milling is called as up milling or conventional milling. Okay, on the right hand side sketch, if you see, the tool is rotating in anti-clockwise direction and the feed is given in the same direction as that of the cutting tool. You can see the arrows there, right? It's very clear from the arrows. Okay, so that is called as down milling. So you have one concept called as up milling and another one is called as down milling. So when do we call it as up milling? So when the workpiece is fed in the opposite direction to the cutter tooth at the point of contact, it is called as up milling. And what do you mean by down milling? When the workpiece is fed in the same direction as that of the cutter tooth at the point of contact, we call that as down milling. Okay. So next we have classification of milling machine. There are different types of milling machines. The first one is called horizontal milling machine. Then the second one is vertical milling machine. Then universal milling machine, planar milling machine, and special type milling machines. So we are not going to study all of them, but in the syllabus you have to study horizontal milling machine and vertical milling machine. Both of them are important. Generally one of them are asked in the examination. Either horizontal milling or vertical milling will be asked. Okay, horizontal milling machine. So you can see the sketch of the milling machine here. So this type of milling machine is called as horizontal milling machine. Okay, so how do you say that this machine is horizontal milling machine? The machine is seeming to be vertical, isn't it? When you see the machine, you will not actually know why is it called as horizontal milling machine, because the machine seems to be standing vertical. The workpiece has to be kept at certain height. Okay, so before that let me just go through the different parts of that. So different parts of that are column, arbor, saddle, spindle, knee, table, base. Right, there are different other parts also, but I've just specified some of the parts. So this part is called the column. Okay, this is called the column, and this part is called as the arbor. This is the work table. Work table is supported on the saddle, so this part is called a saddle. On top of that you have the work table, and this is the knee, this portion. Okay, this is called as knee, and this is the elevating screw, and then you have the base at the bottom. Okay, so these are the different and important parts of a horizontal lathe machine. What is that? Column, arbor, table, saddle, knee, elevating screw, and the base. Okay, so as I told you earlier, why it is called horizontal milling machine? That's very important. So it's called horizontal milling because you can see the cutter. Okay, you can see the milling cutter here. The milling cutter is over here, and the axis on which it is connected is called the arbor. The arbor is horizontal, right? The milling cutter is connected in the arbor in a horizontal way. That is why it's called as horizontal milling machine. If it's a vertical milling machine, the arbor would be vertical. Depending on that, we call that as horizontal milling machine as well as vertical milling machine. Okay, so this is a horizontal milling machine. So as you can see here, we have the column, which is the main part in that, and it is supported by a overarm which is connected to the arbor. So what happens is, inside this column you have the mechanism, right, through which the arbor will rotate. Okay, the arbor will be rotating. So since the milling cutter is connected to the arbor, the cutter will also rotate along with the arbor. Okay, now where is the workpiece? The workpiece is generally placed on the table. The workpiece is generally placed on the work table, and then work table is supported on a saddle. Saddle is just, it's a seat where the table can be placed. Okay, below that you have something called as a knee. So you have an elevating screw, so there is a provision to rotate the handle. There's a lever by which when you rotate it, the whole of the knee can be lifted upwards and downwards. Okay, I hope you understand what I'm saying. So the whole of the knee along with the saddle and the table can be moved upwards and downwards. That means when the milling cutter is rotating, there is no provision for the cutter to go up and down here. It will be rotating in the arbor itself, but wherever you want to move the workpiece or the work table can be moved. That means work table can be moved to upwards till the cutter, so that the cutting action takes place. And there is also provision for the work table or the saddle to be moved in linear direction also. As you can see there, the arrow marks are suggesting that the work table as well as the knee, it can be moved in both the directions, right? So wherever the cutting is required, you will take it upwards first, get in contact with the milling cutter, the cutting action begins, and if you want to move it to the left side, you can bring it down and then take it to the left side or to the right side. So there is a position for the work table to be moving in x-axis longitudinally as well as in the vertical direction. Both horizontal direction and vertical direction, the workpiece can be moved. So you are actually taking the workpiece and keeping where the cutting action should take place. So after the cutting is done, you will get it down. Maybe you want to move it to the left side and again bring in contact with the cutter. So you are actually moving the work table itself wherever you want, not the tool. As in, unlike in the case of lathe, it was reverse. The workpiece would be rotating there itself and you are moving the tool wherever you want to go, right? Here it's absolutely reverse. Tool will be there itself, workpiece will be taken wherever you want to move it. Okay. So you have a base on which it is supporting. So the same explanation is what you have to give. The base will be supporting the entire structure. The column is usually cast into a single component. The entire piece is made up of one single component. Okay. The column actually consists of all these gear mechanisms, spindle or other electric motor. Everything will be connected in the column itself. Okay. And also it enables to mount the table and other mechanisms into that. Okay. The knee is at the knee can move, as I've already explained. The knee can move up and down within the table with the help of an elevating screw. Okay. So arbor explanation I've already given. Arbor is basically a horizontal shaft that is provided with a small tapered shank in the corner. You can see. Okay. Next, knee, as I told you, knee is a casting mounted on the front of the vertical side of the column. It can be moved up and down with the help of an elevating screw. The upper face of the knee is provided guideways so that the movement of the saddle is also possible to horizontally. Okay, so this is what you have to do. So you have to individually explain all these parts. So basically you have to explain on how cutting action is done. That is by moving the saddle, moving the work table upwards, and the cutting action will take place. And also whatever direction you want to cut that, you will move to left as well as right. So the movement of the table is possible in vertical as well as in horizontal direction. Okay, and then if this question is asked, most important is you draw the sketch properly, label all the parts, and then you explain how the working is taking place and what are the different parts. Major parts are, again I'll repeat, it's column, arbor, the cutter, saddle, knee, elevating screw, and the base. Okay, so that's about horizontal